On Thursday, September 22nd, the UN held a high-level meeting to commemorate the 10th anniversary of the Durban Declaration and Program of Action. The president of the 66th session of the General Assembly led the meeting and emphasized the need to always keep present the goal of the declaration, to uproot all forms of racism around the world.
Today's meeting constitutes an opportunity for world leaders to speak with one voice on one of the most critical global challenges of the 21st century. First, the continuing scourge of racism and xenophobia worldwide. It is also an opportunity to recommit to the full and effective implementation of the actions outlined in the Durban Declaration and Program of Action.
Secretary General Ban Ki-moon spoke of the continual need to combat racism and xenophobia and asked that governments do more to stop discrimination and intolerance. He asked for everyone to embrace diversity and show tolerance towards all religions.
Let us stand firmly against anti-Semitism. We must oppose Islamophobia and reject discrimination against the Christians. Bias based on religious identity has no place in our world.
The Durban Declaration and Program of Action is the international community's blueprint on how best to fight racism. The president of South Africa, a country where the document was signed, also spoke at the meeting.
In the implementation of the DDPA and in the fight against racism, however, as we meet today, racism continues to pose a challenge the same way it did in 2001.
Although all the speakers agreed there is still much to be accomplished to defend human rights, Secretary General Ban Ki-moon mentioned some of the advances made since 2001, which include new laws and institutions around the world that seek justice and promote dialogue, as well as better measures globally to prosecute and protect against crimes such as genocide, ethnic cleansing, and contemporary forms of slavery. The High Commissioner for Human Rights, Navi Pillay, also talked of advances made and called for action on the national, regional, and global level.
National action plans are proving an important tool to address racism at the domestic level. My office has been providing training and technical assistance in this area, and we stand ready to assist more states in this endeavor.
Many of the speakers declared racism and discrimination pose major obstacles to development. Secretary General Ban Ki-moon explained how the current economic crisis could only make the vicious cycle worse, as the competition for jobs could often trigger more hostility towards migrants and minorities. The ambassador of Romania, who spoke at the event on behalf of Eastern European states, said all countries had to work towards justice for victims, as no country is completely clear of racism, no matter how developed they may be.
We can acknowledge that no modern society, irrespective of its geographical, cultural, and civilizational specificities or level of development, is free from the complex manifestations of racism, racial discrimination, xenophobia, and related intolerance and hatred. No country has perfect record. No society is beyond criticism.
During the meeting, world leaders adopted by consensus a political declaration proclaiming their strong determination to make the fight against racism, racial discrimination, xenophobia, and related intolerance, and the protection of the victims thereof a high priority for their countries. Michelle Bege for South South News, United Nations.